on to a shocking report. If there's anyone out there who's still saying climate change is not a real thing, they need to get a reality check. By the way, it was raining this morning in Mumbai city in December. And India has seen a staggering number of deaths because of climate change in 2018. In fact, we've topped the list of the most number of deaths due to climate change in any country across the world. The research was conducted by an environmental think tank called German Watch, who presented this at the United Nations Conference of the Parties 25 Summit. The leading cause of the deaths have been heat waves, rains, cyclones, among other things. My colleague Vikram Oza has all the details.
Well, climate change has hit the world hard, but in India, the impact seems far more pronounced. In 2018, as many as 2,081 deaths have been reported already, which makes India the 5th worst hit country in the world. Japan follows India with a death toll of 1,282, and Germany is close behind with 1,246 deaths, all in the year 2018. But nature and its fury in our part of the world has kept the death toll high because of several factors, really. Kerala floods was one. While its connection with rising sea levels is still getting examined, the economic damage has been enormous. Then, of course, there was Cyclone Titli. That showcased one of the rarest of rare occurrences in nature. A cyclone that changed direction and moved with ferocity even after it made landfall. The strong winds, the rain, the meter-high storm surge caused big damage in the state of Odisha. And then there was Cyclone Gaja as well, which pounded Tamil Nadu, which incidentally is one of the 4th most cyclone-prone states in the country after Odisha, Andhra and West Bengal. And it's not just the cyclones, really. The heat is on and it's relentless. Since the year 2004, we've been breaking records when it comes to the rise in those mercury levels. And not only has climate change taken lives, it has impacted our economy too. In 2018 alone, the extreme weather conditions have seen a 3-fold rise, and that too in a year's time. So clearly, climate change is dealing a severe blow to our existence.
You know, let's get some more perspective from one of the authors of this very crucial report. Dr. Mike Winges is policy advisor on climate change from German Watch, and he's joining me live now. Dr. Mike, thank you for speaking with us. Can you explain to us what the key findings were from the Indian perspective? Because here we know that climate change is here. We keep covering the heat waves, the Kerala floods, etc. But the fact that we top the charts in the number of deaths is truly shocking.
Yeah, let me maybe first introduce what we do with the Climate Risk Index. We look at extreme weather events and how they impact countries. We have 2 time periods that we look at, the one being 2018 and then 20-year average. 2018, as you already mentioned, India was ranked 5th with over 2,000 people being killed and the damage of over $10 billion US. And you already mentioned the extreme weather events that created that death toll. It was mostly the floods in Kerala. There was a high economic damage from the tropical cyclones. Although you have to say that the evacuations in India worked quite well, so that at least the tropical cyclones claimed less lives than maybe a couple of years than they would have done a couple of years ago.
Okay, now in the Indian context, Mike, how do you look at the kind of awareness we have at a policy making and government level? And why do you think that India has been particularly vulnerable? Because we've jumped, I believe, from number 14 to number 5 in the nations which will be impacted the most.
Well, India has been in the among the 10 most vulnerable countries or the 10 most affected countries in the past. Of course, it changes from year to year, but India is exposed to a lot of different threats. It's heat, it's flood, it's storms. In 2018, India was among the 10 most affected countries among all of our categories. That's why it's ranked so high.
Okay, but why India particularly? Is it because of geographical reasons? Is it because of high pollution levels or less safety mechanisms? Why do you think India is particularly vulnerable?
Well, of course, it has to do with the geographical with the geography, India has a very long coast. It's exposed to tropical cyclones regularly. There's a lot of heat and drought in the country. I mean, this index doesn't cover the 2019 drought. It's 2018, so we'll only see 2019 next year, and we expect that because of that, India will probably also be ranked high again. So it has something to do with that. As I said, of course, you can try to do something against that, and India is on the way on adapting to climate change or attempting to adapt to climate change. One thing, for example, that you can do is be prepared, have early warning systems, and they worked quite well with the tropical cyclones. But still, you cannot vacate the areas, and there are still a lot of economic assets there. And the cyclones destroyed more than 20,000 homes, and this is a high economic damage, and it impacts the people on the ground a lot.
What about the economic damage, Mike? Because you calculate that as well. Explain to us, how do you look at the parameters of economic damage? Of course, there's a loss of life, like we saw in Kerala, and other such instances, destruction of property, etc. But what are the long-term impacts which will affect an economy like India's?
I mean, our indicators, we look at economic damage, first of all, as the absolute number in power purchasing parity. So we evaluate the whole damage and calculate power purchasing parity from that, and then we put it in perspective to the GDP. So how much has the economy been damaged? Because otherwise, if we wouldn't do that, then we would only have the industrialized countries among the top ranked. And for that, we use the numbers from the International Monetary Fund. So it's official statistics, and that give us quite a good overview on what has happened in this year.
Absolutely. What's your message, Mike? I know I've focused the entire interview on India, but you look at the impact all over the world. You've presented this at a very crucial meeting right now in Madrid. Do you think that the world is finally listening?
I mean, we do hope so. We have a novelty this year. This year, also, two industrialized countries are ranked rather high, with Japan topping the ranking and Germany on the third place. So these countries might now themselves realize that climate change is happening. But what we also say is, especially the development countries don't have the capacity to deal with that. Even though they might be ranked lower, the threat they face is much more existential. And we hope that the awareness now with being affected themselves and in the industrial countries will rise in a way that also the willingness to support and to help all over the world increases.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mike, for speaking with us. He's policy advisor with German Watch and one of the authors of this very crucial report that lists India as number 5 in the list of countries most vulnerable to climate change. We top the world in terms of number of deaths. This should be a wake-up call for all of us.